Well, it appears maybe Trump's revenge tour has finally begun. If you're like me, many of us have been waiting patiently since he took office to see some retribution for the lawfare that he faced, in particular in New York City, with large woman Letitia James and the judges there that were, in my opinion, very corrupt. Not to mention what was going on with this nonsense RICO case and all these things in Florida. All of this stuff kind of just disappeared when it appeared or when he won the election. But Letitia James has remained a thorn in his side. Well, it looks like there's a federal investigation being launched into Letitia James. We're going to talk about that. Trump striking back with a massive new tariff strike back against China, something I completely support. He needs to raise the tariff to the moon to just bring them back to the table. At this point, I said this before, 100%, 70%, 20%. Just make it 500% and get these guys to the table. And that appears exactly what he has done, and many more topics on Trump's revenge tour this morning to discuss. Hey, I don't know if you guys know this. I have a second channel that has 4 to 5 videos a day that that are covering. Some of it's hard news, some of it's not. But there's been some weird going on here with my main channel. So if you get a chance, please do subscribe to not only my backup channel, which will be linked in the description, or you can just search up Quartercast, but also know that there's 3 to 4 new videos every day there that are on topics that we don't cover on the main channel. So there's additional information and fun videos there too. U.S. Federal Housing Finance Agency Director has now referred New York AG Letitia James to the Department of Justice for mortgage fraud. Now, mortgage fraud, we'll have to see what's going on, but this could be a house of cards here that could be falling apart. You can see here on August 17th, 2023, Miss James granted Miss Shamise Thompson Harrison power of attorney to make a Virginia property her principal residence. And on August 30th and 31st, through her attorney, Miss James purchased this property in Norfolk, Virginia, in a Fannie Mae Freddie Mac Form 3047. In the mortgage documents, she reaffirmed this would be her primary residence, despite being a statewide public office holder in the state of New York at the same time and primarily residing in the state of New York. In fact, a building permit issued on her New York property on July 15th lists her New York property as the James resident and states that it remains occupied. Primary residence mortgages receive far more favorable loan terms, including lower interest rates than secondary residence mortgages. Lenders view secondary residence mortgages as significantly riskier, as a borrower is more likely to continue to pay off the primary residence mortgage and during any financial hardship. Interest rates on the secondary residence mortgage are typically between 1/4 and 1/2 point higher than their primary residence counterparts. However, this gap can widen depending on the lender. So Letitia James lied on her mortgage forms. Now, this is not something I would give 2 rips about any citizen doing. I don't care if, any regular viewer out there who's trying to get a fair deal on a mortgage from a bank trying to rip you off. I don't care, but you're not an attorney general. You weren't heading up investigations against Donald Trump for also ridiculous real estate things that everybody else on the planet does. So it looks like Letitia James is guilty of exactly what she claims Trump was guilty of, which they did find him guilty of, even though there were no victims in his case. Letitia James may be charged with wire fraud involving schemes to defund using electronic communications, bank fraud pertains to defrauding financial institutions, false statements to financial institutions, and each carry up to 20 to 30 years in prison if convicted. Now, again, they didn't have to change a law to charge her either. Now, if there was if a regular citizen was getting 30 years in prison for this, I would be making videos outraged about it. But this is Letitia James, and she changed a law to charge Trump with something just as spurious, in my opinion. And I demand she gets the full 30 years in prison. The story continues. Trump administration refers New York AG Letitia James for potential prosecution over alleged mortgage fraud. Now, I don't know, the same corrupt judges that went after Trump are going to have to try Letitia James, although I don't know if it's a federal thing. Maybe she be extradited.
And her, what. The angle has obtained shocking allegations leveled by the Trump administration against New York Attorney General.
They're not really that shocking, but okay.
Letitia
Again, I don't care.
James. The Federal Housing Finance Agency has sent a criminal referral to the DOJ accusing James of mortgage fraud. In a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Director Bill Pulte says James appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms. He cited a property in Virginia that she's allegedly claimed as her principal residence and a property in New York that she claimed as a 4-unit structure instead of the required, instead of a 5, which Pulte says means she was able to get a different type and more favorable loan.
Oops. Now, he also struck back on China. Trump's latest, China warns president to stop whining over tariffs after U.S. curbs NVIDIA chip sales in trade war. Now, as an NVIDIA shareholder, today was another dollar cost average opportunity. Unfortunately, the dip has been going on so long that the opportunity to lower my DCA on all my stocks remains pretty good. Outside of the Rumble stock, I just don't have infinite money, so I'm lowering my dollar cost average, the average per share ownership by like $1 at a time because I don't have $20,000 to throw at it. But this is interesting. China has now warned Donald Trump to stop whining about being a victim over tariffs and escalating trade war between the two nations. It comes as the president claims the U.S. is taking record numbers in tariffs, which could help fight inflation after he raised import duties on nearly all trading partners. However, it is Beijing who is facing the stringent measures. The U.S., which raised duties on Chinese products to 145%, has tightened export rules, with computer chip manufacturing giant NVIDIA among those affected. A fact sheet published by the White House on Tuesday said that China now faces a 245% tariff, and China's foreign ministry urged reporters to question Trump's administration over the figure. Beijing, which raised tariffs on the U.S. goods to 125%, has reportedly told airlines to halt ordering Boeing jets and other U.S. aircraft parts in an editorial on Wednesday. State media propaganda outlet China Daily said that the U.S. should stop whining and about itself being a victim in global trade. Well, I don't think that's going to go over well, as now Trump has again increased tariffs on China to 245%. Now, I will say this. I saw reports this morning from Unusual Whales, which used to be a better account, but I think they sold it, and now it's like a leftoid running it. Japan is in America today, I believe, to negotiate tariffs, which is very, very good. NVIDIA down nearly 6%. Not surprising. The market's reacting to this. The White House says the 245% Chinese tariff, however, is false. China faces 125% reciprocal tariff, 20% tariff to address the fentanyl crisis, Section 301 tariffs on specific goods between just 7 and 100%. But China has said, we're aware certain goods exported to the United States will, to the U.S., reach 245%. That said, China has also said that they're willing to come back to the table now. Earlier this morning, just 5 hours ago, China said that it is open to trade talks if, quote, Trump shows respect. I don't really know what they mean by respect. All we really want them to do is pay their fair share, which is, I think, look, this trade war isn't good on anybody's investments, but 92% of Americans don't really have any money in the stock market. So I'm not too worried about that. That said, you know, long term, this is hopefully going to be a temporary, like a tough summer. You have a bad summer before things, I mean, it is in China's best interest as well as the America's best interest to work out a deal that works best for both of us. Now, what I think we're going to see is, you know, a decoupling of America from China. I mean, if we can just decouple 10%, just 10% decoupling, 15, 20%, it will be worth it. Of course, Joe Biden went on camera yesterday and had an absolute meltdown. But Trump is also ordering new efforts to lower drug prices, which I think would be great. Donald Trump threatens to hit critical minerals with tariffs. Trump is not slowing down, and I'm not sure when these other nations are going to figure it out. I would say they're starting to. You know, he said he's got somewhere around 100 countries, willing to negotiate. You can see Trump jumps in on tariff talks with Japanese officials. This is just moments ago. President Donald Trump said he will personally attend a meeting of Japanese and the U.S. trade officials on Wednesday, a surprise move that underlines his eagerness to oversee negotiations triggered by his barrage of tariffs. Tokyo sent its economic revitalization minister to kickstart the talks, expecting to face Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in Washington, had hoped to limit the scope of the discussions to the trade and investment matters. But Trump weighed in on early Wednesday, saying he would also be there to cover issues included the amount Tokyo pays towards the U.S. hosting U.S. troops in Japan, the biggest overseas deployment globally. Japan is coming today to negotiate tariffs, costs for the military support, and trade fairness. This is great. Japan has been hit with 24% levies. Good. I think things will start to get people will be more relieved as, you know, some of these deals start to get done. It would be nice to get, Japan out of the way. It'd be nice to get the EU out of the way. It'd be nice to get Canada out of the way. These are people that we don't have so far to go on, negotiating. So I'm hoping that we can see some of these deals get done quickly so that, people can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief, take a little bit of an exhale. And as Trump continues on his warpath, one that I completely support. Can't wait to see Letitia James in a prison jumpsuit. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it. Don't forget to go over and subscribe to Quarter Cast, my backup channel. There's 4 to 5 different videos uploaded there daily that aren't covered on this main channel at the very minimum. And also there's something weird going on with the main channel that I'm still trying to figure out. So I don't want to lose you guys. I hope you enjoyed. We'll talk to you again real soon.